I used to think laughter was the glue that held us together. Sarah and I had been married for 8 years, and for most of them, her laugh was my favorite sound. It filled every room, unrestrained, contagious, pure. But somewhere along the way, that laugh changed. It stopped being something we shared and became something she used against me. It started small, little jokes about how I dress, how I forget my wallet, how I wasn't ambitious enough. I'd laugh along because that's what you do when the person you love teases you. You tell yourself it's harmless. But little by little, the laughter grew sharper, more public, more humiliating. At dinner parties, she'd tell stories that painted me as a bumbling idiot. Everyone laughed, even me, just to keep the peace. But every time, a small piece of respect chipped away. When I brought it up later, she'd roll her eyes. "Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. It's just a joke." That phrase became her shield, a way to excuse cruelty disguised as humor. I worked long hours as a project coordinator. Nothing glamorous, but steady. I made sure the bills were paid. The house ran smoothly. The little things were taken care of. Meanwhile, she'd scroll through social media, comparing our lives to influencers and friends who seemed to live shinier versions of reality. One Friday night, she came home late from a girl's outing. Her perfume hit the air before she did. She tossed her heels aside and smirked. "You wouldn't last a day without me," she said. It wasn't the first time I'd heard it, but something in her tone that night felt final. I smiled weakly. "You think so?" She laughed, poured herself a glass of wine, and waved me off. "Please, you'd probably forget how to eat if I wasn't around." The next morning, I woke before her. Sunlight cut through blinds, illuminating the quiet mess of our living room. I made coffee and thought about her words. "You wouldn't last a day without me." Maybe it was time to find out. Over the next few days, I quietly stopped doing things I'd always done. I didn't remind her about appointments. I didn't refill the gas in her car. I didn't fix the small things that broke. At first, she didn't notice. Too busy, too sure of herself. But by midweek, the cracks began to show. She forgot to pay the electric bill. The laundry piled up. Her car broke down because she'd ignored the oil light for weeks. When she called me at work, annoyed, asking why the payment hadn't gone through, I said calmly, "Oh, I thought you said you didn't need me." There was silence on the line. That night, she came home quiet. No jokes, no laughter, just tension hanging in the air. She looked lost, like she was suddenly seeing the invisible hands that had kept her world steady. By Thursday, I'd made up my mind. I packed a small suitcase, left a note on the kitchen counter, and walked out before sunrise. It said only, "You told me to leave." I finally listened. I checked into a modest motel on the edge of town. The silence that was heavy at first, then peaceful. No mockery, no eggshells, just quiet. 2 days later, the messages started. "James, are you coming home? The Wi-Fi isn't working and the garage door won't open." I didn't reply. A few hours later, "This isn't funny, James. You can't just disappear like this." The irony almost made me laugh. For years, she'd made me the punchline. Now, without me, she didn't know what to do with the silence. By Monday, my phone was full of missed calls and desperate texts. The bills weren't paid. The washing machine overflowed. The car still wouldn't start. I stayed quiet. A week later, her friend Amy called. "She's falling apart, James. She's embarrassed to admit it, but she can't keep up. She's realizing how much you did." I just said, "Everyone learns in their own time." That evening, I saw Sarah's car outside the motel. She sat there for 10 minutes before knocking. When I opened the door, she didn't look like the woman who used to smirk at my expense. Her eyes were tired, her makeup streaked, her voice small. She held a grocery bag, coffee, my favorite chips, small things she'd never noticed before. "Can I come in?" she asked softly. She sat on the edge of the bed, fiddling with her ring. "I didn't realize how much you handled," she said. "I thought I was being funny. I didn't know it was hurting you." "It wasn't the jokes," I said quietly. "It was that you stopped respecting me." Tears slid down her face. "I want to fix it." "I believe you want to," I said, "but I don't think you know how yet. You need time to figure out who you are, without someone cleaning up behind you. She flinched, but nodded. Then she left the coffee on the table and walked out. Watching her go hurt. But it didn't destroy me. There's a strange kind of freedom in realizing someone's laughter no longer defines your worth. A month passed. I rented a small apartment closer to work, started cooking again, joined a gym, reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. Sarah texted sometimes, small updates, photos of the dog, questions about the mortgage. I replied politely, never warmly. Then one afternoon, her final message arrived. James, I understand now. It wasn't that you couldn't live without me. It was that I couldn't live without the man I turned into a joke. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Some apologies don't need an audience. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker against the sky. For the first time in years, the quiet didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. People think revenge has to be loud. Doors slamming, voices raised, chaos left behind. But sometimes the most powerful revenge is silence, letting someone face the world they built without the person who held it together. Sarah once said I was too sensitive. Maybe I am. But sensitivity wasn't my weakness. It was what kept me kind, patient, and present, even when she wasn't. In the end, her laughter faded, and my peace grew louder. And that's when I realized, walking away isn't giving up. It's finally standing up.